What is up, my dude and dudettes, and welcome back to TellerTube. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the subreddit r/Maliciouscompliance. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. With that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. You want me to submit a timesheet? You got it. I used to work at a large international company in an inside sales role where we were paid on salary plus commission basis. My boss sucked, there was no career path. And the corporation was an incoherent mess, but the team was cool and the money was good, so it wasn't a bad gig overall. Fast forward to the end of my second year on the team, and our boss calls a team meeting where his boss announces that after a long, protracted battle with the Department of Labor, our team was being reclassified as hourly employees, and going forward, we would need to submit timesheets in order to receive our base earnings. Needless to say, since we were accustomed to taking all the free time available to us during the day for lunch, coffee/smoke breaks, etc., not to mention accruing and using vacation time that no one actually bothered tracking, this was not a popular decision. After a few minutes of us arguing and pushing back against this, my boss announced that the decision was done, and we earned the bulk of our pay through commissions, so we'll just have to deal with it. Okay, fine. At this point, I feel that I should mention that I have a somewhat casual relationship with time. When it comes to important things like client appointments, I'm always prompt and ready to go right on time. But in terms of showing up for work when I need to start my day, or 15 minutes early as some bosses expect, it's just not my thing. My attitude has always been that as long as you're producing and getting your job done, who cares if you're 15 minutes late in the morning, or take an extra long break in the afternoon, or peace out right at 5 on the dot. It's an office job, not one where someone else is relying on my promptness to end their shift. I've constantly been a top 2 or 3 performer, and while I've had my share of obligatory, "please show up on time" conversations with bosses, they eventually realize I'm super productive, so they just let me do my thing. So now I need to start documenting my time. I checked the official HR notice about the change, and my role is expected to work a maximum of 40 hours a week. And now that I'm an hourly employee instead of salary, I'm, surprise, eligible for overtime. Well, if I'm forced to do this and rules are rules, then I'm going to document my hours perfectly. I start noting exactly when I show up at the office in the morning, start and end of every break, and exactly when I leave down to the minute. At the same time, I started to work straight through my lunch hour, and I started showing up a few minutes earlier than usual to start my day too. You know, to clock in properly. I started submitting timesheets for 45 to 50 hours a week and started to bank a fat chunk of overtime at time and a half per paycheck that I was previously ineligible for and was not budgeted by the company. Fast forward a few weeks and my boss calls me over to his desk. He had my timesheet up with start and end times like 8:23 a.m. and 5:12 p.m., etc., and was not happy. I forgot what exactly he said, but he basically told me to knock it off and round my times to the official start and end time, like everyone else on the team. He wasn't a bright individual, and I realized 3 things. He just didn't like counting my hours to the minute. Basic math is tough. He never said anything about non-existent lunch breaks, and he either knew nothing or said nothing about my OT pay. No problem, boss, you got it. From then on, my start and end times matched the official times that I continued to either work through lunch or take only 30 minutes of the allocated 60 minutes and continued to submit timesheets with 2 to 5 hours of OT. I never heard another peep from my boss, and a few weeks later, they quietly discontinued the manual timesheet and just paid us in full at our annual salaried rate. Okay, boss, if you say so. Send me in a crappy application and tell me to just make do? You got it. So I work for an agency that specializes in disaster relief. I'm basically a professional nitpicker, and it works like this. When a town or city or some other place suffers from some kind of disaster and want to get reimbursed for damages and repair expenses and the like, they contact us and send in an application. This application has to include certain kinds of documents in order to be eligible for any funding, and some of the documents have to be laid out a certain way. For example, if you have to hire a bunch of laborers to help clear debris or something, You have to tell me who worked how many hours on which day, how much they were paid per hour, how much they were paid in total, that sort of thing. If your application gets to me and doesn't have all the bells and whistles, one of three things happen. Your application is rejected, your application is sent up the chain minus whatever I can't validate, meaning you get less money for what you're originally asking to be reimbursed for, or I send it back to you to be reworked. I usually do everything I can to avoid the first two, because I know how hard it can be to recover from a disaster when you have to pay for stuff out of your own pocket. But today I made an exception, courtesy of some good old-fashioned malicious compliance. So I get this new project. It lands on my desk with a thud. It's an application from a small rural town of only a few hundred people that was heavily damaged by severe rains and flooding. Trees knocked over, power lines destroyed, you name it. They got hit real bad and had to hire a lot of people to help clean up afterwards. And they're applying for over 20 grand in reimbursement. Anyway, I'm parsing through it, going over my checklist, making sure everything is in order. About 5 seconds in, I realized that whoever put this garbage pile of project together either didn't know what they were doing or didn't care enough to find out. Crappy or missing paperwork, broken files, incoherent notes and add-ons, you name it. So I make a list of all the things that were wrong with the project and call up the project supervisor. In other words, the guy the town hired to put all the applications together, to see if he and I could work together to fix them. I tell him that I won't be able to validate the project for the full dollar amount with what I've been given, but the guy cuts me off, calls my competence, intelligence, and professional integrity into question, accuses me of trying to stiff the town, and calls me several choices of names. He ends by saying I better make do with what I've been given, and that it's not his job to do anything more than what he's already done. I'm pissed, but I hang up the phone and go talk to my boss. I asked the boss what I should do. I already knew what he was going to say, but I wanted to make sure I covered all my bases. Sure enough, he synthesizes, tells me to validate whatever costs I can and ignore the rest. I tell him that doing so will result in a drastic reduction of the amount of money the town receives. He tells me that it's not the agency's problem if the project supervisor refuses to cooperate. Malicious compliance activated. I go back to my desk. I do exactly as the boss instructed. I validate what costs I can and ignore the rest. I damned well make do with what the project supervisor has given me. Just like he said, it amounts to a little over $5,000. I double check my work, then triple check it before kicking it up the chain for final review. The whole project was done and dusted by lunchtime. I also know I'm going to get an earful from the project supervisor, and I'm not disappointed. Around 2 in the afternoon, I get a call from him, and as soon as I pick up, he starts ranting at me. As soon as he does, I call the boss over. I tell him that my boss is on the line, and the boss basically tells the guy that it's his own stupid fault. The project supervisor doesn't care and continues to scream at me. He says that I'm trying to cheat him by leaving out the missing funds. When he finally pauses because he has to breathe, I smile and tell him he'll just have to make do with what I've given him, and that it's not my job to do anything more than what I've already done. I hang up before he can say anything else. Then I call up the guys at the town city hall who hired the project supervisor to let them know what's happened and exactly who to blame. And since small town gossip spreads faster than bubonic plague, I'll bet you anything that the project supervisor will find himself on the receiving end of the entire town's hatred by this time tomorrow. And he deserves it. That's hilarious. Well, if he just followed the rules, he would have got the full settlement. It really is his fault. You want a meeting to discuss our phone account? Okay, let's have a meeting. For the past few years, our business has been receiving telemarketing calls from an offshore call center trying to make appointments for Optus Business Center. Every time they call, we politely tell them we are not interested and to remove us from their list, and they'd promise not to call again. You can probably tell by my use of the words every time that having ourselves removed from the list didn't work. It didn't work the first time and didn't work the 50th time. Offshores are cheap and get paid per appointment, so they would get quite aggressive. It was clear that a new strategy needed to be found as it was taking too long to get them to bugger off. So began my campaign of malicious compliance / petty revenge.
Hi, we're calling from Optus Business Center and we can save you 40% on your mobile phone bill. Can we come and see you tomorrow at 11 a.m.?
You can save me 40% on my mobile phone bill? That's like 60 grand a month.
What? How many phones do you have?
150 or so that I'm responsible for directly, plus a few others. The appointment is quickly confirmed. The next day, a salesman calls me up and he's running early. Can we meet earlier? I refused. Our appointment is for 11 a.m. after all. 11 a.m. rolls around and he walks in. We sit down in reception and go through the greetings. I then ask him if it's possible to make the telemarketing calls stop now. He assures me that it is, and so I stand up, shake his hand, and thank him for coming in.
What? That's it? You could have said that over the phone.
I pointed out that we did, many times, and it didn't work. And I hope that this waste of his time, 45-minute trip from Homebush to Sydney, would perhaps teach him to mend his ways. Over the past 2 years, they have sent out 5 different reps to see us. They call for meetings, we accept them, shine them on about the values of the account, and they roll in to be greeted by me dressed in a chicken suit, made to wait in our meeting room for 20 minutes before being asked to be removed from the list, being turned away at the door. They sent 2 reps at that time. I'm posting this today because it was visit number 6 and it was the best one yet. We got a repeat customer. I sat him down in the meeting room and played the video recording of our last meeting. Is that you?
Yes, it's me. Didn't I follow up? Did we have a good meeting?
I pointed out that I certainly enjoyed our last meeting and zoomed forward in the video to the part where I explained that we didn't have 500 mobile accounts and he needed to please remove us from their list, and you could see his heart break, which it did again once he realized that whatever account he thought was being discussed today was not going to be discussed, which we also have on video so we can go all Inception if and when he shows his face again. By all means, come on in, you're gonna get the exact same response as last time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that like button as it would really help me out. Subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.